Welcome to the latest edition of Truth News. I'm Taylor Harding.
And I'm Ashley Jones. On today's show, we're going to discuss the issues with current news outlets and the lack of consensus they have caused among the American people regarding climate change.
Studies show that 98% of climate scientists agree that humans are causing climate change, but their data is only accurately and truthfully reported by 28% of the country's news outlets. 72% of news coverages about climate change and the state of the environment give skeptic viewpoints about mankind's role in the matter.
The contradicting reports of whether or not humans are responsible for the ever-growing environmental crisis has caused serious confusion among the American people. Because of this confusion, people are reluctant to act. Americans are not willing to take action, whether it's changing daily habits to have a smaller impact or electing officials who will create more eco-friendly public policy because they don't believe there's a problem.
This occurs because the many national news outlets report only one side of the environmental story. Conservative outlets like Fox News will tell the least concerning facts and data or find ways to prove climate scientists wrong. Similarly, liberal outlets like MSNBC or CNN will report the worst facts and data. The gap between the two types of news outlets force Americans into picking who is right and who is wrong. Because it is our nature to pick the comforting story, more people side with the conservative reports.
The reason why news outlets have grown to tell such different stories to their viewers is because business and money have become an integral aspect to reporting. Commercials air during breaks and other types of sponsorship that help fund the news outlets from large corporations who have political agendas. If the news can report a side that benefits their financial contributors, they will get even more funding. It becomes a vicious cycle that revolves around money instead of reporting the facts.
The importance of money in the mass media industry also leads to less significant issues being reported over the important stories. What gives the outlets the best approval ratings from their viewers tends to trump telling the news that really matters. We'll now cut to a short video about what really gets reported in American news.
There was a time not long ago when each and every day at 6 o'clock each evening you knew news was on its way. From anchors of integrity and free channels to choose, it's what we call the news. Then along came cable and the ratings race ensued. Great legends found themselves replaced by blondes with big fake moves. Debate replaced with punditry, politically skewed. It's what we call the news. We interrupt this story, which is coming from Iraq. Has Rosie Sue and Donald Sue and Rosie back. We're cutting from Darfur. We're in Des Moines with urgent news.
There's a finger in my food.
Guitar strings, titles, sound effects, and graphics everywhere. Breaking news each minute in the rush to get on air. With scandals, dramas, tragedies, and mindless ballyhoo that's turned our brains to goo. Now only 3% can point to Kabul on a map, but 96% can claim they've seen rich could eat at. The world's greatly affected by the stories you choose to put into the news. Bronco chases, plane wreck shootings, victims on a cruise. John Bonet, Scott Peterson, and Anna Nicole too. Celebrities in rehab and a bowling at the zoo. It's what we call the news. This just in, President Bush can't open a door.
They call this crap the news? That's what they call it.
This leads many to wonder how the news outlets can get away with calling this true reporting. The government agency in charge of monitoring what gets said on TV and radio newscasts is called the Federal Communications Commission. They have many rules and regulations about what cannot be said and have the power to fine a company if it violates the FCC rules.
Until 1987, part of the FCC regulation guidelines included the Fairness Doctrine. Introduced in 1949, the doctrine required all holders of broadcast licenses to both present controversial issues of public importance and to do so in a manner that was, in the Commission's view, honest, equitable, and balanced. Broadcasters were required to devote some of their airtime to discussing controversial matters of public interest and to air the contrasting views regarding those matters. Stations were given wide latitude as to how to provide contrasting views. It could be done through news segments, public affair shows, or editorials. The purpose of the doctrine was to ensure that viewers were exposed to a diversity of viewpoints.
The Fairness Doctrine was removed by President Ronald Reagan as a political favor to the FCC chairman Mark Fowler. The abolishment caused an uproar in Congress, who voted to reenact the doctrine, but was struck down by Reagan with a veto. The regards to the issue of climate change and the wide-ranging viewpoints of the American people. The Fairness Doctrine would force all news outlets to talk about both sides should it be reenacted today. Fox News would be forced to mention the facts that go along with climate change believers, and CNN would have to reference the naysayers as well.
The benefit in doing this is that all news outlets are forced to acknowledge the truth in the other side's viewpoint, which would eventually drive all reporting more towards the middle. Ideally, this would lead to not only more fair, but also more truthful reporting. When the entire nation is hearing the true facts about the rapid decline of the environment from all news outlets, everyone will be forced to believe it and act on it.
Reinstating the Fairness Doctrine would require the FCC to increase its personnel to monitor that every news outlet follows the rules. If a station fails to comply with the doctrine's guidelines of fair and equal reporting, they will be heavily fined. If a station continues to violate FCC guidelines, the fines will increase to a point where the license to broadcast is revoked.
Incentives to follow the rules should also be given to news outlets. For equal, fair, and accurate reporting, the FCC will give yearly stipends to qualifying and deserving outlets for the purpose of covering operating costs. This system encourages all outlets to follow the Fairness Doctrine to its full extent and purpose. The funding for this incentive program will come from the money collected from stations who violate FCC guidelines, but reforming advertising on both TV and radio will also contribute to this pool.
To eliminate the corrupt business aspect of the news reporting, the money paid by big companies to air their advertisements should go directly to the FCC instead of the station who is airing it. Not only follows for more funding for the incentive program, but also eliminates any pressure for the news outlet to report a viewpoint that favors a particular company who pays for advertising. For example, BP will pay the FCC directly to air their commercials about the Gulf cleanup instead of Fox News, therefore making Fox less inclined to report that wildlife in the Gulf is better than it really is.
To ensure the Fairness Doctrine positively affects climate change, extra incentives will be provided for emphasized reporting on environmental issues across the country. Breaking news stories, current research, and the latest data are all aspects of the Environmental Reporting Incentive Program. Of course, this reporting must also be equal and true to all viewpoints.
Obviously, the Fairness Doctrine was removed from FCC guidelines before the birth of social media, so applicable rules to this news source for reporting is not included in the original document. Should the FCC reenact the doctrine, all social media accounts affiliated with major news outlets, whether it's Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram, are required to report equal and truthful viewpoints as well.
There currently are members of Congress who are fighting to reenact the Fairness Doctrine, and the idea has come up in the first Obama presidency. The president doesn't see reimposing the doctrine as a necessary action for media reform, but does in fact have other ideas for changing the way the news is reported.
If the Fairness Doctrine is not reinstated, or if the mass media industry isn't changed in some other way, the hope of convincing the American people to act on behalf of the environment is small. Time is obviously running out to convince the nation that climate change is a true, pressing issue that needs to be addressed. If significantly different stories about the issue continue to be reported, the confusion about validity of the problem will only grow.
The American people are stuck in limbo, waiting for confirmation on either side of the issue. Clear and honest reporting on every channel will eliminate the confusion and propel the nation into action that is needed. Although it seems like a daunting task, a few policy and regulatory changes are the only things that stand in front of a nation who does its part to put a stop to climate change.
Hopefully you are now convinced that the rest of the nation's news outlets need to embody our name. Thanks for watching this edition of Truth News.